something that's on my mind is the question I'm often asked about what learning rainforest means. So it's the title of a book I wrote, and the rainforest, it was part of a metaphor that I developed when I was the head of a grammar school, where when I first arrived there, I think in my head, I'd been a kind of school leader who was probably quite inclined to say, look, if it's a good idea, we should all do it, because that's kind of makes sense. I've got a good idea, I've got evidence for it, and I believe in it. So I'd be one of those people that would elevate that to be kind of a universal, we all must do this. And when I got to this school, which is called KEGS, that was its acronym, I came across teachers there who were exceptional. Like you wouldn't find a better chemistry teacher or a better English teacher. And yet they were quite different, eccentric even, maverick. And I was faced with this challenge of, well, how do I manage this team of exceptional teachers when they're all so different? Who am I to say how to teach chemistry better than he does or she does? And there are lots of other things to do with, computer systems, or whether everybody needs to choose the same poems. And I realized that the sort of, what I've been doing was being guilty of what I call plantation thinking. So everyone must do the same. And it's sort of well-intentioned. It means, you want things to grow, to flourish. So you provide sort of standard conditions, and you're kind of dealing with the bottom line and making sure everything's at least above the standard. But what that does is it cuts off the sense of organic flourishing and things taking excellence in their own form. And I started thinking what I need to do is reframe that. And actually, when I started my blog, teacherhead.com, which has led to me writing books and so on, you had to sort of type in a little byline. And I thought, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the rainforest of teaching and leadership, because that's kind of how this school was inspiring me to think, which means the rainforest is about excellence taking many forms, diversity of approach, but everything being excellent. It's not there's sort of duds and things which are good and bad. It's about different approaches to solutions. And I found that being very helpful to me over the years. Since then is to think, okay, we need to excel, but let's not confine that to a certain narrow range. So it takes form in terms of teaching teams. We have to agree certain things that we agree on, because it's kind of sensible from a workload perspective to have agreed approaches and to share resources and that sort of thing. But teachers thrive on autonomy. You like to feel like your own person, like your classroom is your place where you can be yourself and express yourself. And so I think the rainforest thinking comes in there. And as a school leader, I found it really helpful to say things like, rather than starting with, here is the school's mandated marking policy everyone must follow, I'd be saying, guys, what would be your ideal marking policy, say in maths or in science or languages? Tell me what you think that might look like for you. And then we'll look at it. And then what we find is a range of approaches, each of which is excellent. And there's no need to standardize. So that's where the rainforest thinking comes in. What do I think about it now? I think a blended approach sometimes be useful. If you go too far to the rainforest, you can have, some people don't flourish in that environment. They do need more structure. And sometimes it's just pragmatic and sensible to say, look, let's all have some common approaches so that we get things going. And I do think it's more not about one or the other, more about, when is the right approach to take. But if you never allow the rainforest thinking to come into you, if you're really a super controller, you are already cutting off a lot of potential, I think. So it's about finding the right balance. There's a danger that rainforest thinking sounds all very, idealistic and woolly. I don't think it is. I think it's more naturally how schools operate anyway. But it's always that focusing on the excellence. It's multiple ways to excellence. Anyway, so I hope that's been a useful response to that question I'm always asked, and maybe give you something to think about in your context.